Ready for an adventure? Today, we're diving deep into the Cragmaw Hideout.
Not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
Definitely not. We're here to uncover the secrets of the Cragmaw Totem. And we've got maps, legends, even some first-hand accounts from adventurers who've encountered it, so...
Yeah, and what I think is so cool about this deep dive is we're not just looking at a magical artifact, right?
All right.
We're looking at a culture that's often misunderstood. Like, the Cragmaw Totem, it's not just some trinket you find in a dungeon.
Yeah.
It's a window into how these goblins see the world, you know?
Absolutely.
Their values, their beliefs.
I am so ready to see the world through goblin-colored glasses.
Right.
But before we do that,
Yeah.
can you paint me a picture of this hideout?
Okay.
From what I've heard, it's not exactly a luxury resort.
No, you're definitely right about that. Imagine a network of damp, echoing caverns. Like the air is thick with this scent of moss.
Huh.
And, well, let's just say goblins.
Yeah.
They aren't exactly known for their hygiene.
Not big on the daily bath.
Not so much, no. Every step you take, water's dripping from the ceiling, the darkness feels like alive. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm already getting those don't wander off alone vibes from this place.
Yeah.
And what about this steep passage I've heard whispers about?
Right, so just getting to the totem is a challenge in itself.
Makes sense.
Which, I mean, it makes sense if you think about it.
Right, you don't just leave your most prized possession just lying around.
Exactly, you don't leave it lying around for anyone to find. So the steep passage, this is a narrow path, and it clings precariously to the edge of a chasm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one misstep.
Yeah.
And it's a long way down.
This is where I'm thinking a good set of climbing gear
Yeah,
and maybe a healthy fear of heights would really come in handy.
for sure.
But let's say we do manage to navigate this perilous path. Where does it lead us?
To a place that will send chills down even the bravest adventurer's spine. The Shrine of Maglubiyet.
Ooh, okay. Now, forgive my ignorance, but is this shrine like a spa day? Or are we talking something a little different?
Let's just say it's not for the squeamish.
Okay.
Imagine a dimly lit cavern. The air is heavy with this scent of like wet blood and incense.
Oh, wow.
And there are these offerings scattered all over the floor, crude offerings, bones, weapons, things you probably don't want to look at too closely.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This is where the Cragmaws come to, like, pay homage to Maglubiyet.
Right.
He's their god of war
With war, okay.
and conquest.
So I'm starting to understand why this totem is considered more than just, a magical trinket.
Right.
It's connected to something much bigger, something primal, something powerful.
Exactly, yeah. And that connection to Maglubiyet, to this whole warrior ethos, it's like reflected in the powers of the totem itself.
Okay.
But before we get into that,
Yeah.
we should probably talk about the totem's, appearance.
Yes, good idea.
How is it described in the texts?
Yes, paint me a picture. So we've braved the hideout, survived the steep passage, and made it to the Shrine of Maglubiyet, kind of hoping we don't run into whatever they use for offerings.
Right.
But we're here for the Cragmaw Totem, so what does this legendary artifact actually look like?
Well, it's not exactly like sparkling treasure, if that's what you're thinking.
So no goblin bling.
Not quite. But imagine you're digging through those offerings, pushing aside who knows what,
Okay.
and your hand brushes against something unexpected. Not cold and metallic, but like radiating a subtle warmth.
Okay, now that's intriguing. Not what you'd expect from a shrine to a god of war. What's it made of?
Bone.
Okay.
Which, I mean, makes sense in this context, right?
Right.
But also, this dark, almost smoky-looking stone, there's a pulsing green rune etched into its surface.
Okay.
And you get this sense of ancient energy from it, like it holds secrets whispered from generations past.
It's like something a shaman would carry, not a warrior. Speaking of which, do we actually know who crafted this totem?
We do.
Oh, we do.
Legend has it, it was created by a Cragmaw shaman named Zargash.
Okay.
And he wasn't just your run-of-the-mill shaman either. This guy, he was known as the Spirit Whisperer.
Okay, that's not just a cool title. That's practically a prophecy waiting to happen.
Right.
What made him so special?
So Zargash, he was said to be able to hear the whispers of spirits.
Okay.
Not just like the ancestors, but the spirits of animals, plants, even the earth itself.
Wow.
And it said he poured that connection to the natural world into the totem, imbued it with a power that went beyond, typical magic.
Okay, all right, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. Let's talk about these powers. What can this totem actually do?
Okay, so picture this. You're deep in the heart of the Cragmaw Hideout. surrounded by goblins, speaking their guttural language.
I'd be reaching for my phrase book, hoping I remembered how to say, "Please don't eat me."
Right. Well, with the Cragmaw Totem, you wouldn't need a phrase book.
Oh.
Because one of its powers is goblinoid communication.
Wait, I can suddenly understand Goblin. I wouldn't have to rely on charades to get my point across.
Precisely. By touching the rune in a specific way, you'd understand and speak Goblin as fluently as any Cragmaw.
Wow.
Think of the conversations you could overhear, the secrets you could uncover.
Talk about an immersion experience. Although, hopefully it comes with subtitles.
Right.
Goblin grammar is probably a little rough. But what about its other powers? You mentioned something about a wolf spirit.
Yes. That would be the attunement power. It's called Spirit of the Wolf.
Okay.
Now, this one requires a deeper connection to the totem.
Okay, so less of a party trick, more of a long-term relationship.
Exactly. Think of it like, earning the totem's trust.
No.
Once you're attuned, you can activate its power by speaking a specific phrase in Goblin.
Of course.
And when you do, your senses become incredibly sharp, almost like you'd imagine a wolf's senses to be. Tracking, perception, even your sense of smell would be like heightened.
So it's like upgrading your senses to superhero levels, but only if you can pass the Goblin language test first.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. What are the other two powers?
This is where it gets really interesting. The third power, Shaman's Blessing, speaks to the spiritual side of the Cragmaws. It's not something that's easily accessed.
Sounds like my kind of challenge. What do I have to do? Fight a Hydra? Solve a riddle?
Think less brute force and more like understanding. You'd need to know a specific prayer.
Okay.
A ritual, really. Spoken in Goblin while holding the totem.
So it's like a combination lock, but instead of numbers, it's ancient Goblin words. Crack of the code. Like it. But what happens when you get the combination right? What kind of blessing are we talking about here?
Well, it's said to invoke the strength and wisdom of the Cragmaw ancestors. Imagine like this surge of energy, like a wave of confidence just washing over you.
Okay.
In game terms, you'd receive the benefits of a second level bless spell.
Okay, for those of us who haven't dedicated our lives to memorizing spell books, what does that actually mean?
Okay, so think of it this way. You know that feeling you get when you're facing like a challenge and suddenly something just clicks?
Yeah.
You feel more focused, more determined, like you can overcome anything.
Yeah.
That's the essence of like the Shaman's Blessing. It enhances your resolve, makes you more likely to succeed in, whatever test you're facing.
It's like having a guardian angel whispering words of encouragement in your ear.
Right.
Sign me up. But you said there were 4 powers.
Yes.
What's the last one?
Okay.
Hopefully it's not makes a mean cup of goblin tea.
No tea brewing abilities, I'm afraid. But the final power, it's always active. It just provides this constant, subtle benefit. You see, simply wearing the Cragmaw Totem, it grants you a kind of emotional and spiritual resilience. In game terms, it gives you advantage on saving throws against fear effects.
So less I can bend steel with my mind, and more I can walk into a room full of giant spiders and not completely lose my cool.
Exactly. The totem, it like bolsters your courage, Makes it harder to be overwhelmed by terror. And this would be particularly useful in a place like the Cragmaw Hideout, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where fear is practically a weapon in itself.
Yeah, I can definitely see the strategic advantage there. It's easy to dismiss goblins as just these, kind of goofy, monstrous creatures.
Right.
But this totem, it's like holding a piece of their history, their beliefs.
And that's what I think makes this deep dive so compelling, Like the act of attuning to the totem, of earning its trust.
Right.
It's said to forge a deep connection to the Cragmaw tribe itself.
Wow.
People who've undergone the attunement process, they talk about having vivid dreams.
Oh, wow.
Visions of goblin warriors under a blood moon, vast forests teeming with life.
That sounds intense. Almost makes you want to, grab a spear and join a raiding party.
Well,
almost.
Yeah. Let's stick to exploring their culture safely, shall we?
Probably for the best, yeah.
But you touch on something important, like this connection, it isn't just metaphorical. The totem actually vibrates when you're near a goblin encampment.
Really?
Yeah, like it's trying to get their attention.
Oh.
And it works. Like the goblins, they recognize the totem, they treat the wearer with this mix of awe and a healthy dose of fear.
Talk about making an entrance.
Right.
Imagine strolling into a goblin den wearing their tribe's most prized artifact.
It would certainly make for an interesting negotiation tactic, that's for sure.
Well, that would.
But there's one more detail we haven't touched on yet.
Okay.
Scattered throughout the Cragmaw Hideout, you find these crude drawings, runes etched into the walls, goblin graffiti, if you will.
Oh man, I bet it's hard to resist the urge to critique their technique. Do they at least use like a proper chisel?
The artistry might be a bit rough around the edges,
Yep.
but that doesn't make it any less meaningful. And here's where the Cragmaw Totem comes in again.
Okay.
It can help you decipher those markings, you know.
Oh.
Give you glimpses into the tribe's history, their legends, maybe even clues about the totem's creation.
So we've got this incredibly powerful artifact steeped in magic and history that can help us communicate with goblins, enhance our senses, and even understand their art.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
What's the takeaway for you, our listener? What makes the Cragmaw Totem something worth understanding?
I think it's a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the world, in the most unexpected places, we can find beauty, complexity, and a different way of seeing things. The Cragmaw Totem, it's not just a magic item, it's a key. It unlocks the potential for understanding, for empathy, for a deeper appreciation of a culture that we often dismiss as, you know, monstrous.
Yeah.
So the next time you encounter something you don't understand, something that seems strange or even frightening, remember the Cragmaw Totem. It just might hold the key to a whole new perspective.
Excellent advice for both adventuring and for life in general. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.